Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar. The Practical Guitarist Podcast is brought to you by Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Great Lakes Guitar Pickups provides fantasy tones at prices a practical guitarist will love. Featuring top-notch construction, attention to detail, and a fully custom product, if you can dream it, Great Lakes Guitar Pickups can probably build it. Follow them on Facebook at facebook.com/Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Are you a regular listener? Why not? David here reminding you of all the ways you can participate in the Practical Guitarist Podcast. Subscribe using your chosen podcast app. Review us on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. Find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Practical Guitarist or on Twitter as @PractGuitarist. Support the show. Merchandise is available in our Threadless store at practicalguitaristpodcast.threadless.com. And donate to us via Patreon, available at patreon.com/practicalguitarist. Reach out to us directly via email at questions@practicalguitarist.com. Hello, Jim.
Hi, David.
Man, I tell you, this week has been nuts. My room, you still can't see, is the walls are exposed behind me. The floors are still missing. Nothing has changed, except that it's all dry now.
Hey, well, then they can get to work.
Yeah. Which I was thrilled about because I was concerned that I was still going to have the humidifier and fans going. My house has been a wind tunnel for the last 2 weeks.
You guys have snow. I can't even imagine.
Snow's gone already. It melted today. We got up to 50 degrees and it melted. It was all
I'm sure it did. I'm just saying that it's getting cold at night.
Yeah. We got electric baseboard heat. It's still running. Even though the wall behind it is totally exposed. It isn't even plastic. There's nothing behind it. It's concrete.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. We had to pull the insulation and everything because you get moldy insulation and all that. So basically the entire front side of my condo, 2 feet from the floor to 2 feet up, is just completely gone. In some areas it's slightly higher than that. So,
yeah, concrete, that really holds the cold out.
Yeah. Actually, you'd be surprised. We hadn't been running the heat and it got down to 68 last night.
Wow.
And it was, I think it got down to 28 degrees overnight. So yeah.
My heat's only had to work a couple hours in the morning before the sun comes up. Yeah. But it got down to 30. It was close to freezing here the other day. Now it's nice out.
Yeah.
It's nice. And I could literally open a window.
80 degrees. Yeah.
Must be nice. 50s. And it was 80 degrees the other day.
Let me know when that hurricane
Then
hit.
I got down to 37. And then I came up and they were like, what's the coldest night of the weekend? Well, obviously not tonight because it's freaking nice out.
All right.
Anyway.
We're not a weather podcast. We're not a construction podcast.
We're not?
I thought we were a weather podcast.
I thought we were weather. So let's begin with Tales from Guitar Center.
Yeah.
We need to have some music you can cue in, woo.
I don't know if I want to go through all that trouble.
So I'll write something. So anyway, Tales from Guitar Center. Not too many tales really as far as wacky stuff because let's face it, you don't want to regurgitate crap that's happened before. But I do want to go into some of the things that I've been starting to see. But one tale, we've got a freaking $1,000+ amp on the floor. Nobody knows where it came from. It's it's obviously new, but shipping and receiving either didn't pull it in right or something. Somebody unboxed it. Somebody put it there with the used amps.
Brand new $1,000 amp.
Where'd it come from? Yeah. It's $1,100 or $1,200. It's what is it? The Twin Reverb or Twin Deluxe or whatever.
I believe that's a what would we call that? I believe that would be a donation.
Usually it's called shrinkage. Do they call that expandage? I don't know.
Expansion.
Yeah, in the retail world, it's called shrinkage when you lose.
Suddenly, that serial number, you're tracing it back to Fender, and they're we never sold this.
I had a relatively boring week as far as things that happen in Guitar Center, but I want to talk about customers that are not always right. So I had a customer come in.
Like me, because I thought the classic vibes were alder and they're pine.
Yeah. Yeah, but they've got like 14 inches thick of finish on them.
It's
So.
basically got armor on it.
Yeah. It's built with armor. It's got its own armor all. Well, we had a customer come in tonight, and I was told this is a regular thing. Customer comes in and likes to go in, grab an acoustic guitar, go into the back with his wife, sit down and serenade her. Okay. Why they can't do this at home? Got no idea.
Because this is how he gets the wife to actually pay for stuff.
No. That's just it. So he grabs an expensive acoustic, sits her down, starts playing for her, but never buys anything. So tonight, he walks in, walks past us towards the basses or drums or whatever, then comes back up, grabs a capo off the
Capo.
Yeah, a capo off the thing, goes back into the back, and then sits down. I said, that guy just take a brand new capo into the back? I said, yeah. And I go, so I walk up and I'm, hey, is there anything I can help you in particular find? Nope, we're just looking. Okay, well, let me know if I can help you find anything. I'm Jim. So they go, if that guy pulls it out of the case, say something, because not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
We have capos that we can loan, but we want to keep our new ones new. Nobody wants your germs. Nobody wants your, unfortunately, there are people who don't want your used. I know, but you don't know. You don't know the things people return stuff for.
No, that's what my point is. Like, why would he do this? Like,
So I go back, and sure enough, he's got the capo on, third fret, and I go, "Excuse me, sir. You just took that capo out of the package. Are you purchasing that?" No. The guy up there told me I could take it. I said,
"Where? You've been watching him since he came in the store."
I said, "I'm sorry, sir, but we have capos that we'll loan to customers. I need to put that back in the package, give you a new one." So I said, otherwise, we've got to mark that as an open package, and we've got to discount it. And the guy was like, oh. And so I packaged it up. Really what we're worried about is him walking out with it.
Yeah.
So sure enough, give him the loaner. Guess what he does?
Walks out with it.
Guess
what?
And so the manager
not allowed anymore.
The manager runs out to the parking lot, waving his arms like this, and the guy peels out. You just drove off with $12 worth of stuff. I mean, you're not even a good thief. If you're going to walk out with something, walk out with that acoustic. I mean, come on, make it worth your while. So now, we're not going to send the police after him.
Well, I just, but I would bring it up the next time he comes in.
Well, no, we know he'll never darken it. We know the guy. We all know the guy. So it's like, now it's a bolo. This guy, don't let him back in the store.
Right. That's what I figured.
But I don't get it. He comes in all the time to serenade his wife. This is your wife, who I assume you live somewhere near.
Question.
And you probably own a guitar.
Has he been stealing stuff all this time?
See, that's what I'm
said
wondering.
Anything. That's what I figure is going on.
I think that, yeah. So anyway, that would, and then you've got the people who come in and, can I help you find anything? No, we're just looking. And sure enough, the same person is with a different person every day. So I start to do a little sleuthing.
Yeah.
They're giving lessons.
Right.
In the back of the store, giving freaking guitar lessons. Hey, you can rent one of those rooms.
Yeah.
And you can give us a few dollars because you're using our area and our guitars. The least you could do is rent one of those things. Then you can bring in your own guitar, and your students can bring in their own guitars. He's got them lined up, coming in all night long. Then we got another guy who comes in every week. He's got his earbuds in, walks up to an amp, grabs a guitar, walks up to an amp, and neat for hours at a Spider 5. Can't choose one of the can't take those earbuds that he's got, stick it into a amp that's got an earphone out, right? No, let's not do that. Let's have to turn it up loud enough so you can hear it over what's in your earbuds.
Well, I think we talked about on the show the one guy I met the one time.
120 watt freaking spider
Yeah.
on insane setting or whatever, so that everybody else has got to hear you suck. I mean, suck. And the guy can't even play. He's there every freaking day. Look, if you can't play a major scale in a week, of being there every single day, and he's been coming there for a long time, the guy said, you suck too bad. You're just not going to get it.
Well, the fact is he can't practice outside of the store.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so because he has to do the same things over and over.
Over and over. And so then we've got, you've got dude who returns everything.
Yeah, I've seen some of them before.
Yep. Everything they buy.
Have you got a guy that comes into the store and mixes his albums on your studio gear yet?
No, we haven't. Well, I don't go over to that side, but I'll tell you this. So, and then we've got a person who comes in and wants to try every expensive guitar into place.
Oh yeah,
and purchases zero.
Yep,
every time. I mean, it's just people. You can bet that the people that walk out of there when somebody like me says, "Is there anything I can help you with?" and then they get that, man, they probably want me out of here. No, I'm just wondering because obviously I'll sell you the most expensive thing in the store if that's what you want. So a short guy like me who's got to go 3 guitar things up, I got to get the big ladder.
Yeah, right. I got to either
pull the thing. Get the guitar down, and I'm old. I got bad knees. I'm going up there. I'm getting the guitar down. Oh yeah, can I try that one? Go up there, pull the other one back, put the next one down, and then the guy. Well, I don't really have any money right now. Well, that's good. That's great.
You know what though? The fact is, like, just because they say that doesn't mean that's actually the truth. What it means is they don't want either of the ones they played.
That's right. And just say it. No, I think both of those guitars suck. But I mean, so it just, you start to see the same faces and you start to see the same progressions. We had one guy in there, let his kid pick off every guitar on the first 2 layers for every Jackson, every Dean, every Charvel, every Epiphone, half the Fenders. I mean, least you could do is buy some picks, buy some strings. No, walk out, nothing. And it's like, I know you just did that so you didn't have to go, with somebody else and shop for freaking dresses or whatever. You could just sit there. But yeah, it starts to get under your skin because you spend a lot of time. And so now I can tell you, now that I've been under the microscope, why it's important for a Guitar Center employee, why they get a little irritated, spend the time with people that spend no money and you spend a lot of time because you're measured by dollars per hour.
Yeah.
And so if you spend an hour talking to somebody who walks out buying nothing, you're expected to you're expected to sell $450 an hour.
That's why I don't get into, like, when I go in there, if somebody asks me if I need it, I'm like, nah, I got it. I'll take care of it because I don't want you to have to spend extra time on me.
Yeah.
Because I know.
Which is cool.
I'm completely honest with them. Like, I'm not buying today. Like, I'm just here looking, and I'll tell them if I find something I like, I'll come back. I still will get stuff down for people. I don't care. But I'm just saying. Most people are that way.
Yeah. But your measurements, that's why the pressure is on us to get things. It's not that we want you to buy something expensive. We just want to help you so that we can get, keep it rolling.
Right.
And, that's where unfortunately, I don't care where you are in sales. A lot of people are like, well, the mom and pop, they don't care. Let me tell you something. The reason the mom and pops don't exist is because they don't care. The ones that don't care don't exist. Because if you're not making money per hour, you're not keeping the lights on, you're not paying the rent,
right? You're
not paying for your inventory, you're not paying for the stuff that comes in the store.
Right.
So you can be that way, but unless you're independently wealthy, you've still got to make, But I did recommend a person was looking at at pickups. So I did recommend Nick Bonger's and Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. So I hope you got a call.
Cool, cool. I've done that before too. In fact, I have written his number on the back of my business cards in some cases and handed them to people.
Oh, I gave him his business card.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. So, man, I see. Basically, this week is the week where you're starting to see all the repetition, so repetitive behavior.
Yeah, this is my second week. I'm already seeing the same things and seeing the same faces and the same names and the same stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right, I guess we can move on now. I mean, hails from guitars.
So here we go.
Um,
Let's first talk about the what do you call it in the room? The elephant in the room this week. So I got an email and you got a little something.
hold off on that for a second because I got that now. My next list. Yeah, no, we're going there. Don't worry. We're going to cover that in great detail.
All right.
So with regards to last week's topic, right? We talked about the Strymon Iridium. I want to talk about that too a little bit, just because that's kind of come full circle for me, and I have some more thoughts and comments based on more clips and stuff I've heard. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit about last night and open mic I went to. I don't really have a whole lot. I last week when we did the show, I hadn't used my RC3, the Boss Looper, at an open mic. So I went to on Tuesday and I had pretty much the worst open mic I'd ever had. None of my loops worked correctly. Some of my loops actually had guitar on them, which was really comical because I queued up one of those songs and I hit go and I start playing and then the guy starts turning down my actual guitar volume and I'm literally just miming and I'm like, no, we can't do this. So I stopped the loop and then queued up a different song. But that was a freaking righteous disaster. And I was really ticked off with myself and was like ready to throw in the towel. And so I knew the big open mic around here was coming up this weekend, and so I took Friday afternoon and I made sure all my loops were at the same volume levels, and I made sure I had the correct mixes, and I basically obliterated what I had done and put everything else on there. Um, Added some new surprises, and went out last night. And actually, I've done this open mic I think 2 or 3 times now, and I had like a massive headache the last time I was there. I had a panic attack on stage. And I didn't have it this time. Not at all. Um, and so I just wanted to say it was like a big triumphant thing, and I was really happy to do it. And it was a good experience, and it just goes to show perseverance. If you're doing this stuff, don't let bad experiences drag you down. Just kind of keep your head up and keep swinging. So but yeah, so my comments on the Iridium before we move on to the real topics for this week. Please don't tune out, please. I know we talked about it last week, but there's a little bit of additional information I want to put out there. So I took some time and I watched some the more prominent YouTubers clips where they were taking a look at the Iridium this week. I didn't really change my opinion much. I do think it sounds better than it did in the Strymon videos in some of these cases. Like if you really want to see a good one, go see Rhett Scholl's. He got an Iridium as a demonstration thing, but even he was comparing it with the HX Stomp in terms of just discussing it, and it was pretty clear to him that the HX Stomp makes a lot more sense if you're looking for like an all-included rig, or if you're looking to like slim down on size and stuff. But also, it's more flexible too. I don't think he openly commented about the modeling accuracy in either product, but I think he was saying that like basically at that price point, it's more personal preference than quality. I have my own personal opinions about that. I think there is definitely a noticeable difference in quality between the Kemper and Helix for me, and so I would suspect there's probably a noticeable difference in quality between the Strymon and the Helix. But he also mentioned in his video, and this is the interesting thing because I kind of poo-pooed you last week, Jim, but he mentioned that he thinks Strymon is probably readying some sort of bigger modeler, like a big box version of that with some included effects, maybe not everything. Um, but at least to be kind of competitive with the field right now. I'm still kind of on the fence on whether they're going to do that or not. They have a very strange marketing mechanism over there, and I made it very clear in some of these YouTube video comments that I felt that Strymon does an exceptional job of providing products that are very good for people who play like praise and worship, or who are more like pop oriented, or like on the the lighter side of things. They do not cater to hard rock musicians. They do not cater to metal musicians in any way. None of their products, in my opinion, do that, except for maybe like some of their. I mean, obviously, a delay is a delay, but they don't put drive pedals out. Like they don't have a fuzz, for example. They don't gear their stuff to be like metal centric or metal focused. You're not going to see Strymon come out with a metal zone. Okay,
That's the reason I was surprised by the name.
yeah,
Iridium,
the heaviest thing ever,
the heaviest
except
metal. Yeah,
which is why I'm still kind of shaking my head at it. We talked about Amp One and Thomas Blug's product and everything, and just it was a bad choice. Whatever, we live, we learn. We see dumb stuff happen all the time. Uh,
yeah,
so, yeah. So speaking of dumb stuff, the 10,000-pound elephant that Jim was referring to is everybody probably received an email or you saw it somewhere. I know Nick Bonger shared in our group. The that was where I saw it. The prototype, or not the prototype, but the teaser trailer for a new Fender guitar.
yeah,
First off, I kind of looked at it and I said, hey, maybe they're going to do something different. Maybe they're going to take one of
yeah.
their old designs and do modern things to it. And it
And
doesn't
then I
look
thought
like that's
not.
what they've done at all.
So yeah, the first thing I saw was I knew that they were doing it with the guitars and the basses. But what I saw at first, the way that the reveal leads you to believe is that the guitar is going to get bass like EQ. And I thought, okay, they're going to put like the controls of the basses on a guitar.
Yeah, like a passive
Nope,
treble bass system, like what's in the G&L stuff.
that's not what we're going to get. So what we're going to get, and here's the thing. Okay, Gibson did this with the Les Pauls, and it was a bomb. It was a big, huge poop. Okay, bucket of crap. Right. So now you've got Fender over here going. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to change the heel on the guitar, and we're going to put locking to it. All they did really. This is my take on it. And I know there's some other things, but this is my prediction because it doesn't officially launch for a couple of days as far as the official reveal. This is going to be they're replacing the Elite series with the Ultra, and they're going to give you the contoured heel. That's it. That, to me, that's what I see coming.
Lower price point, though, right?
With a slightly lower price. Well, $19.99, right? Or is it $18?
I believe it's $18.99.
$18.99. So
I could be wrong on
$100
that.
lower.
And I could be wrong on that. So, no stainless steel frets?
See, that's just it. Are we going to get stainless steel
Well,
frets? That's a good question.
Okay, so that was part of my angle on this discussion. So Fender announces this new guitar, right? They put an insane level of marketing hype behind this thing. They're going to have a teaser trailer for something they're going to drop. Now,
it looks exactly like a PlayStation drop teaser trailer.
Yeah, it's
not like the PS3 and the PS4.
Yeah, it's like embarrassingly similar.
Yes.
And I look. Here's the thing.
You're going to get a contoured heel. That you're going to get, and you're going to get a sparkly color of blue.
Well, there were some pictures of concentric pots in the video too. Some sort of pot.
That's what I was talking about, that concentric pot. But then again, the leaked picture didn't show a concentric pot.
Is the leak a fake?
I'm thinking the leak is a fake.
That I think so too.
Kind of like those leaks of the Tesla truck when they were trying to show it looking like it's going to look more like a freaking utility vehicle than a truck.
Right. So here's my hot take on this. If that is in fact what Fender is putting out, which at this point it looks to be, because there's been two separate leaks, right, from different sources. Um, this was not something they should have hyped at all. This should have been a model change, maybe an announcement video, but not really like, hey, this is a brand new product aimed at a whole new market, and it's going to change the way you play electric guitar.
It said it's going to change the way you play a Fender.
How is it going to?
Yeah, exactly.
How is it going to change the way I play electric guitar? Right now, I play Strats. This guitar is marketed at me, right?
Yep.
But here's the thing. It doesn't have any of the features based on what we've seen so far that would make me go, this is a game changer. Like, it doesn't have stainless steel frets. It's still using maple for the neck. It's still, it's still got a headstock, of course, which is fine. It's got the same features that what you can currently get in an Elite, which, by the way, is a great guitar.
And is on sale for less money.
Yeah.
If you can find one. If you can find one. They're flying off the shelves.
Of course, because everybody wanted them, but they were too expensive.
Yeah. $2,300. They found the price point was wrong.
Yeah, it was really wrong.
That price point was wrong.
Now, I don't mind them resurrecting the Ultra name, the Ultra series. I think that's a cool idea. I do think it's a little premature. They were out in the 90s. I thought they were out in the 80s, but they were running, I guess, from 90 to 98. So it's kind of surprising to me that, a 20-year-old guitar gets a resurrection when they've got so many other like model names and years out there. I'd like them to bring back the heavy metal Strat. The HM.
The HM.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, they did it for a year or something as the heavy metal, and then it became the HM. They rebranded it. And that's what they're doing here, right? They're going from the Elite to the Ultra. Which, look, the main thing is, this is not really that different from a Strat that you can buy from any manufacturer, because they haven't done a really great job of protecting their copyright over the years, which is why you can go get like a Nick Johnson model, right, from Schecter, which is basically a Strat with a different headstock.
Right.
Or you've got G&L, of course, has their whole line of like legacy products that Legacy and S500s and stuff that use the Strat style body now. Those guitars didn't use the Strat style bodies originally, which is equally mind-boggling to me. That they made the decision to move back towards that. And I just feel like this is a cash grab. This is a marketing cash grab, and this is really surprising from Fender of all people at this point. They seem to be kind of on the ball with this stuff. This is their first kind of faux pas. And I have a feeling that a lot of the people in the gear community are going to look at this and kind of laugh and be like, this was kind of silly, guys.
I don't think this is the first faux pas. So we finally got some of those Fender Acoustasonics in the store.
Oh, God.
I've had one person ask.
Yeah, those things were a disaster. And you know what? You're absolutely right. That was another marketing disaster on top of that, too. They made a big push to make it seem like those guitars were going to be revolutionary. And we knew they weren't. We looked at them and we go, those are silly. No one's going to buy those.
Yep. They've been hyped up by the YouTube community and the.
Guess what, Jim? They are silly, and no one bought them.
Yeah. I don't think they're flying off the shelves. I mean, I'm just one Guitar Center in one area, but I haven't seen a single one sold. I have not seen a single person playing one.
My conversations with various retailers, both online and in person, have all indicated that they do not sell well, and they made a lot of those guys. So if you want a good deal on a crappy acoustic, try to get a deal on an Acoustasonic, because I have a feeling they'll be willing to talk, especially the next year or two when that line gets discontinued, because I don't think it will last through 2021. You're on mute, Jim.
In another Gibson move, you'd think they'd learn something from Gibson. They just said, "Oh, you know what? Nobody's buying them. Let's have different colors. That'll sell them.
Different colors and exotic woods."
Yeah, different colors and exotic woods. That's going to do it.
Because the guitar that basically doesn't use the wood to make the sound of it is going to somehow be better by putting exotic woods on it. I mean, that's a purely aesthetic upgrade. And for the people that are buying Fender products, I mean, yeah, aesthetics do play into it, but I don't think they're more meat and potatoes than, at least in my interpretation of the typical Fender buyer, which could be totally wrong, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate mail. But I don't think people are buying them for the aesthetics. I mean,
No.
yeah, overall the aesthetics, but I mean, like, not necessarily like, oh, this Fender with its Koa top is,
Right, right. No, I don't think anybody is knocking down doors to buy a Fender acoustic of any kind.
you know what? And I've seen a couple of them over the last few days in open mics and stuff, and all of them have been pretty good. Now that's, of course, with the electric system engaged, so obviously it's not the same as, uh,
Right, right.
a plug-in,
Acoustically.
right?
Yeah,
But that is a good point. If in fact, I don't think I've seen anybody mic up an acoustic except for a classical in quite some time. So, I
yeah,
mean, in a realistic use case scenario, it's probably okay for a stage guitar.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The $200 something Fender guitars are fine for that.
Yeah. So,
Anyway, so yeah, this is the thing I don't get, and we've talked about this, and I think Nick brought it up in the discussion on the Facebook page. Is guitar manufacturers need to shrink the number of SKUs. And we've said this before. Fender's got so many SKUs, you can't.
actually, I don't think he was talking about SKUs, Jim. I think he was talking about the quantities of guitars
In
produced.
general, yeah, yeah.
And
Well, if you've got SKUs, you've got volume. But I mean,
you could no, Jim. I'll argue this. If they were putting out just a standard, they could still be making 20,000 of them a year.
I don't know why they're not just putting out standards. Uh, American standard, Mexican standard, and maybe an HSS model of each. And then, of course, in Telecaster, thin line, and then your good old Telecaster. The other ones, I know that there's a lot of marketing hype behind it. Oh, yeah. So we had a guy come in and he wanted to trade his guitar, and I unfortunately, I hadn't been having a good day. Guy walks in, he wants to trade his guitar, and he's talking to one of our guys, and he's like, "Geez, it's brand new. I just took it out of the box, and I can't get more than this is like a third of the price of new." And he's trying to explain to him, "Well, I'm giving you 60% of what I can market for." And the guy's all ticked off. I should be able to get half of what new price is, and so on and so forth. And I said to him, I said, "Look, man, we can only sell it for a certain amount of money." He's doing his best, you know. Then when the guy finally relents, he doesn't have an ID. So he can't sell it anyway. I'm like, you're driving around with an expired license and you know. But anyway, so yeah, it's just look at how many American Stratocasters there are right now. Then you're going to add the Ultra.
Well, it's not just that. Like, it's literally the sheer volume. That's my bigger concern. So your average player, right? Somebody who's buying on the used market, who's really just a player, right? Like, he's not really into gear or whatever. A strat's a strat, right? He's gonna look for the woods he wants, and maybe pickups. Um, I had some conversations with some gentlemen last night, actually, at the open mic about similar stuff, and it was like, well, it's just a guitar, and I like the pickups that are in this particular one, and it's, they don't get all bent out of shape about having something super specific like we would. But I wanted to point this out. So in 1996, right? How long ago is that? That's 25 years ago,
Yeah,
something like that. Uh, they were producing 50,000 guitars a year. All right. How many guitar players in this country do you think buy a guitar a year?
yeah, exactly.
And how many of them are buying a Fender a year? So,
A specific Fender. Yeah,
and we know that they've increased their production levels since then.
I think what we're seeing right now is that we're starting to see a bubble. Right? There's
Yeah.
certain guitars we cannot get enough of in the store. Right now, we don't have any classic vibes. Yeah, we talked
Right.
about that
No one
before.
does. No one
No
does.
classic vibes. And we're waiting because there's a
Yep.
lot of people who want that classic vibe. And I'm sure it's
I
coming.
have a I have a theory on that. So let's play
Yeah.
this up because
Yeah, I'm sure they're coming. But here's the thing. And we have people who come in and they go, yeah, I want American Standard. Well, the American Performer is the new American Standard. That is exactly what happened with frickin' Gibson. Well, the traditional is now really the standard, and the standard is now more of a, you know, well, I want it to say standard, but I want it to be the standard.
see, I've never
And
seen anybody get stuck on that, but I have heard people go, I want the baseline American model. I don't want anything
right,
less than that.
right, and the thing is that the performer is now the standard. But people do say to me, I'm just saying that this is what I'm getting, but I want an American standard. But there is an American standard. It's kind of like who's on first. I
They
can't
blurred the
explain.
lines after 25 to 30 years of marketing as we do this and this. They blurred the lines,
Yep.
and I can definitely see that there's probably some consumer backlash out there where people are like, "The hell? I don't even." Honestly, if you tell me you're going to buy, was it the Performer series, right? I can't tell you if it's made in Mexico or if it's made in China or if it's made because the parts could be coming from anywhere. Nobody knows.
Exactly. And that's the issue right now. Is that the performer, and of course we're going to have the Ultra here shortly, but is the performer now the standard? And if it's performer is the standard, why didn't you just call it the standard? It's not like you have a standard in the line anymore.
The problem was that they made it out to be a geographic centric thing, and what they should have done is made it a quality level thing and said, okay, so they're doing the right thing now. The way it's marketed right now is actually a good idea. Performer, professional, and then I would have like connoisseur level or something, which would
Right.
be the top end and the custom shop stuff. Um, and that's how everything should be marketed. They should have 3 pamphlets for when people come in the store and they want to look at they want to look at a fender like you have. Oh, are you a beginner? Here's your beginner pamphlet. Are
Right.
you a gigging guy or do you play at your house and like you've been playing for years? Here's the performer level thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it would make a whole lot more sense for them to have rebranded that way if they backed it up with the proper literature and stuff to say, you know what, this is what we're doing now. And you know what, honestly, I think they still should have kept the names around. I think
Yeah.
I think the if the performer is now the standard, which if it's the state like the Mexican standard, what they should have done is just called it the standard, not a Mexican, just a standard, right? And then they should have had the professional be the professional, which is now the American higher end. Because I think most consumers don't. I mean, yeah, they do care about country of origin, but I think if they're being told that this is the standard model, it's like when you go to buy a car and you tell them I just want I want the base model, right? It's kind of similar concept. So I don't know. It's that's a marketing question we could sit and debate on this show for hours. And we've done it.
Well,
Um,
can I say one other thing though about it? So recently, um, what we've been running into um, with the guitars and this stuff is and it's kind of the fault of the guitar companies is that they've said, okay, we're putting out this guitar, and so then they say, here, YouTubers, tell us what you think, which is good. Don't get me wrong, it's a good thing. And then the YouTuber says, wow, this classic vibe, anybody could play this classic vibe. You could play this classic vibe in any venue, in any gig, anywhere. So then they go, how do I convince somebody? You were just talking about this today. How do I convince somebody to spend versus what is it? What is a classic vibe? $600 or $500?
no, classic vibe is $350, man.
$350.
Yeah.
$350? Are you kidding me? And then you're going to turn around and tell me, hey man, you know that slab of wood with 4 bolts and that hold the neck on, and I've got one that's worth $2,000.
Yeah. Because
How am I? You tell me as a retailer now, as a person who's now representing your product on the floor, trying to convince somebody to spend that money
Oh, it's
in a
awesome.
way that other than give me more commission, how do I convince that person when in reality I know they could take that classic vibe home and play that thing
For
and
most
do
people, the classic vibe is all the guitar you need.
yeah,
And I would say all right, so let's break down like population dynamics, how I believe this actually works, right? So,
yeah,
100%, we start out with 100% of guitar players, right? That's
yep,
people, from the basis of I just bought my first beginner guitar all the way to people who've been playing their whole lives. Um, and I would say maybe 40% of them play on stage annually, maybe. And that's probably way over, right?
yep,
Um, and so if you think about it from that perspective, like to answer your question, you know, that other 60%, that's where the classic vibe should be targeted, right? It should be going after the people that maybe don't play on stage, don't feel they need to have like a higher quality instrument for whatever reason.
right.
Um, and it's intended for gigging professionals, but I think the market for gigging professionals is a lot smaller than what people think it is. And I think the companies overestimate that too. I think they think that those markets are much bigger than they are, which is why we're seeing companies like Strymon go so hard at praise and worship because though your typical bar band guy doesn't see that as gigging, that is
It is.
a market where people are actually performing with these things and they're buying expensive stuff because they want it. Right? Um, Not to say, and but I want to make this very, very clear. I'm considering buying a classic vibe or lesser guitar for gigging
Yeah.
because I want a beater. And I'm not saying that that's not a stage ready instrument. Like I really do believe you could probably take them out and gig them. Um, what I'm trying to say is that the creature comforts that you get from like a little bit higher end guitars, they're creature comforts and you can get by with the raw basics. Now, that's where things get funny because you're asking how do you sell this to a customer? Well, we've already
Right.
seen who's Philip McKnight. He talked about the difference between a Squire and a like a conventionally made American instrument, right? And his whole thing was like, well, they use pop metal to make all the metal, like all the metal parts.
Yep.
Um, the wiring is the cheapest wire. It's not even necessarily like the correct stuff. The magnets are often weak. Or, they'll use different styles of pickups, like with ceramic bar magnets underneath, like you had in your Affinity Strat or your Affinity Telly. Um,
Yep.
and just basically like where they can cut costs, that's where they cut costs, right? Um,
Yep.
and so if you're going to tell a customer this, you're going to say, well, this is substandard metal. This is, and automatically you're making your product look like crap, which means you're not
That's
going
it.
to sell that product. And then you're also going to make the customer realize, hey, you're selling crap. Like you're a scam artist.
Yep.
So you really can't talk down about any of the products. All you can
Exactly.
do is play up the strengths of the higher end instrument, which are diminishing returns once you get past a certain point.
Yep.
You had the customer come in and ask you yet, what's the difference between this $2,000 guitar and that $3,000 guitar?
Oh yeah.
And then you're like,
Art.
yeah, art, art, pretty much. Like,
Yeah. It's simple as that. I tell them because this one is prettier. I mean, look at
and
you know,
sometimes that's not even true either.
yeah.
I'm gonna put PRS.
No.
I'm gonna put PRS on blast right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so PRS has this thing called 10 tops, and if you probably know if you're listening to the show, a 10 top costs you about $1,000 more, and it's supposed to be a highly figured top, right? But
Right.
I have seen 10 tops that look terrible. And I'm going, why would anybody pay $1,000 more for that? Who's determining the standard for what a 10 top is? PRS is.
Right. Right.
And maybe because they thought the wood would look better based on their wet test, because you know how they do that. They like pour water on it and then look at the figuring. Um, Maybe if they looked better when they did it, and then when they stained it, and then maybe the staining didn't go as well and stuff, like then all of a sudden it looks like crap. when they get through their finishing process, and they still got to reclaim the fact that this is a 10 top, and quality control is subjective there, and so maybe that guitar doesn't get cut in half and ends up in the store, and then you see 10 top and you're going, that the regular core model sitting next to it looks better. And I see that a lot
I've seen it
from them lately, and I think that's appalling. I think 10 top, I think all the maple that they get, they should use as much of it as they can, and then at the end of the day, when they're shipping guitars out, they should go, that's a 10 top, that's a 10 top, that's a 10 top. Not this whole thing of like bookmarking, we're going to take these and we're going to make these 10 tops. Like, see them when they're done. It's simple enough, because it's obviously not what's going on. I mean, or whoever gets to pick them is like, hey, I'm going to get some people today, I don't know. I don't know that whole process. You've been to the experience thing.
Yeah.
If you're going this summer, you should ask them about that. Tell him your co-host. Tell him your co-host has a question.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a simple thing. When you look at the ones, they just like you were saying, they take the woods and they set them aside. And they go, these are going to be 10 tops.
Yeah. How could you know until
how do you know until you get it in there and you get it? I'll tell you a funny customer story. Customer brought back a guitar, a Stratocaster, a beautiful Stratocaster. One of the prettiest ones I've seen in a long time. Had some gorgeous wood grains in it. And he goes, yeah, I ordered this in, and whoever painted it just did a horrible job. And the salesperson's like looking at it, trying to find a flaw in the finish. And he goes, yeah, see how it's darker in these areas and it's lighter in these areas?
It's a burst.
He was talking about the wood grain. He was talking about the grains of the wood. He goes, look, see, there's all these squiggles and there's these lines and these circles. They shouldn't be in there. That should be just one color.
See, this is why I can't do retail, because I literally just look at that person and
I would
cover your ears. I just like, get the fuck out of here. Like, seriously,
you spent $1,000 on a guitar online.
And you didn't realize that wood grain could vary? What are you doing? What are you even doing here? That would be my reaction to this. Like, dude, you're pulling my leg, right? Like, this is a joke, right? Yeah.
That's what I thought.
I would last a week in that job.
Oh my God. It was just one of the funniest things. I forgot to mention that, dude. It was just one of the funniest things I'd ever seen. I'm like, you are kidding me. You just complained about a guitar because you could see the grain. He thought the grain was paint, and that it was paint that it was painted on. I kid you not. But anyway, that's what you deal with. That's what you deal with. And so if you're, again, if I'm in, this is my thing. That's my question to Fender, though. Without me downplaying and down talking some of their gear, tell me, how do I talk up? Because right now they've got a thing going on where they're like, yeah, sell these higher end guitars. Okay, tell me how to tell somebody that's looking at the guitars we've got right in front of them that are in the $300-something and the $500-something or $600-something, sub $1,000. First two rows, sub $1,000. You're up to that third row and you're up over $1,000. Tell me how I'm supposed to convince them to spend that money when they see, to them, it looks like the exact same guitar with the exact same features.
Honestly, I think you have to take the throw crap against the wall and see what sticks approach and say, okay, you're looking at that. You can't be looking at the classic vibe right now, but you're looking at an Infinity Tele over there. How about I get you this? How about I get you this American Tele up top, and then you can compare them, and then you'll see how good that Infinity Tele really is. Because it's reverse psychology at that point. You're like, oh, well, you're not trying to sell me the expensive one, but then they play it and they go, oh yeah, it's a lot more comfortable, and it definitely sounds better.
Well, you know what? You would think we got a customer in returning an Infinity Squire. Okay. It's a telly. It's a telly. It's a Infinity Swire telly. He's like, yeah, when I bend this string right here, he's all the way at the first fret. I don't know how he's bending the string far enough to go past the fretboard, but he does. And of course, when it goes past the fretboard,
It frets out.
no, it gets hung up on the fret wire because it's not quite, you know, the fret sprouted a little bit right there. Little 10 seconds with a file, done. So he brings a guitar back. And then he doesn't spend a little bit more money, spends a little bit less money. Yeah, order that one in for me. Why did we do that for him? Get out of here. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm just saying that at that point, I'm like, you do realize that every guitar from Squire is gonna have something. But I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything to him at all because this was obviously the guy that just wanted to save a few more dollars.
Yeah.
But now we've got to ship that guitar back. I don't know why. We've got to ship that guitar back. I'm like, just put it on the floor. It's $119. It's going to fly out the. It's a nice blue. It's the exact one that's in that Facebook, our Facebook thing.
Yeah.
The exact same one, but it's got a little bit of fret sprout. But instead of taking just a few seconds, get a file in there. You know, we could have done that. There you go. It's all good.
So wait a minute. The string is catching because of the fret sprout.
Because he's pulling the string past.
As I'm saying, he's pulling it off the board.
Yeah, that's going to happen to anything that's got a little bit of fret sprout. It doesn't matter.
I mean, hey, idiot, that's not normal use.
You don't pull the string that far.
Nobody
Right.
pulls it off the board. What the hell kind of sound are you going to make with that?
That's what I was saying. I was
just
like,
gonna go thunk. You might as well just, pick your finger behind the nut, bend the string a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then palm mute it. Because that's what it's going to sound like.
Yeah. So it was just funny to hear that guy do that.
Right. So back to the original thing here, like, how do you sell guitars that are you feel are a luxury purchase? And
Right.
I mean, you got to look at other industries that do that. I mean, the car industry is perfect because they often sell vehicles that are way more than people need. And how do they do it? By convincing you that you need these luxury features.
That's
What's
right.
the problem with electric guitars? If you add features, people bitch and complain because, oh my gosh, it's not as it was in 1950.
But there's that. And here's the other problem. What features are you going to add? Seriously.
That's a good point. I mean, I was going to point out, but there are definitely features you can add. I mean, passive treble bass controls, active pickups, different styles of pickups. But see, those aren't visual things. And so that's where you would come in and say, hey,
Right.
you don't like, you think this guitar sounds too full, like you want something more scooped, get this. But I think that even that stuff, like, I don't think people know what they want. In a lot of cases, now they may have some like guttural reactions to, like, when they pick up a guitar and they play it, like the neck and everything, but they don't know what kind of pickups they want in a lot of cases. A lot of the people I know who bought guitars, I saw a gentleman the other night and I watched him play and I watched him struggle with a couple things and I go, that's the wrong guitar for him. Like I could visually see what was going on and I'm going, he may really like that, but he's struggling with a couple of things, and it's because the shape of the neck is wrong for him. Like, I know because I had the same problem at one point. But it was, I mean, you can have those kind of reactions, whereas like they're not going to figure that out for themselves, and they don't necessarily know that anybody else knows either. They don't realize
Right.
that they're part of their development is stunted because the guitar has too wide a neck or has the wrong string spacing for their finger size or something like that.
But most people are afraid to try more than a couple guitars.
Well, I'm guilty of it. I mean, look, I play Strats and like I play Strats primarily. I rarely pick up other guitars because it's what I'm familiar with. And I absolutely know that there's a lot of stuff out there that I neglect because of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird situation to be in where, and we're picking on Fender here because obviously the Ultra is coming out, but
Right.
But other companies are doing silly stuff like this too.
Of course.
A couple of years ago, Schecter brought they built that factory here in the U.S., right?
Yep.
And I'm gonna spill some information that I've heard from a couple of sources, but basically they spent way more money than they had. They had new investors come in, bank loan, all this kind of stuff. They built a new
Yep.
factory, and they had to produce basically Fender levels of output in order to keep that place open. Now, do they care if anybody buys the guitar from Guitar Center? No. But I'll tell you what, if Guitar Center's orders dry up, that's going to be a problem.
Yep.
And I've heard other companies going through similar shenanigans, and you kind of sit there and you think like, you want to talk about market saturation. If they don't care what the end user is buying, that they only care what the retailer is buying, that's a problem. Because eventually some of those guitars are going to end up going back
Right.
if they're on some sort of consignment thing, or if they just don't sell. I mean, what, do you think
Yep.
Guitar Center is going to throw them in the shredder? Have you seen any of
Nope.
that yet, Jim? I've heard
No.
stories.
You know that whole thing that those whole horror stories? The only guitar I've seen go in the pooper, um, I was doing an unboxing. And when I say unboxing, I unboxed like
Literally
two
opening
dozen
a
guitars.
guitar, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I unboxed an Epiphone. The first one I opened up,
The headstock was broke.
headstock,
Yeah.
cracked right off.
So they have you hit it with a hammer 50 times and then throw it in the garbage?
No, we just threw it away.
Yeah. So,
Didn't do anything to it.
um, I
That might be people just having fun when they're smacking them with hammers.
I think that's done in regions where people like to dumpster dive for the guitars.
Yeah.
Like where, you know,
And they know
the
it.
guitarologist continually
Yeah.
goes to the same Guitar Center locations and digs through the dumpsters. So I'm sure that they're like, well, we gotta smash these with a hammer. Like we can't have you guys keep
Yeah, we can't have
out.
this guy coming over here and doing this stuff. 'Cause
So
yeah.
um
But it's just funny to hear some of the stories. And then I look and it's like, but I'll say something now that I've been on the back end of it and seeing some of the stuff that's back there. I'm like, oh my God, I would not want to be in shipping and receiving. Holy crap. I mean, it's just throwing away cardboard, marking
oh
stuff
yeah.
that needs to go on the floor, putting stuff up on shelves that in the warehouse side of it.
Yeah.
I mean, just insane.
Yeah. Well, people don't realize like how many cases are stored in the back of Guitar Center either.
Oh my
I got
God.
walked through there one time and I was like, this is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It really is. Because
And
you're not only storing cases for guitars that you have on the shelves, like
yep,
you're storing cases for guitars that you could potentially have on the shelf because
potentially.
yeah, I mean,
Or bags. Those
right.
are the worst ones. Oh my God. You
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
find a
yeah.
slot for a bag. And those bags just, they fall.
Yeah, they're not gonna like stand up for you or anything, which is funny because I always thought they should just hang them. You
Yeah.
can hang them by the hand strap.
Can you imagine how many hangers we'd have to have?
You know why they won't do it, Jim, though? Because there's too much
No way.
risk if the hand strap gets ripped of them having
Oh,
product loss.
that could be.
Yeah. I mean, it's that's kind of silliness, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
Um
we had a guy come in and he bought one of the because a lot of people don't like some of the flimsy bags that Fender gives you.
all right, so
So they'll just tell us to keep them.
we've talked about saturation on
Yeah.
this show before. Let's talk about
Yeah.
guitar doomsday. So what happens if the things that we're saying are actually true, which is that
Right.
Fender and Gibson and the big guys are making too many instruments, right? And there's not enough demand. And so these instruments just end up sitting in a warehouse. Now we've seen this from Gibson already where and that was mostly because of the craziness of the 2014, 15, 16 lines where those guitars sat in stores for like a really long time. In some cases there
There's
were
still some of them
2015s that were
sitting in
in the
stores.
store for like yeah, like 5, 6 years
Yeah.
later. Um okay. So let's make this like guitar doomsday. So what actually happens? Well, the first thing that would happen is Fender and Gibson would probably and it would go one of two ways. Like either Guitar Center is gonna fold first and say no, we can't continue to order guitars from you guys, or Gibson and Fender are going to. I mean, I guess that's the way it really would have to go. Maybe there isn't a two strategy approach because Gibson and Fender are still going to produce guitars. They're not really. I don't think they have their finger on the pulse of demand as much as they think they do. They're looking at from the retailer perspective. Are our sales vehicles buying guitars from us? So if that were to happen, I think Guitar Center would push back first and say we can't take any more, and then Gibson and Fender would have to start laying off people or axing production lines, right? And they might be able to. They might have enough cash reserves to run a year or two, um, out of pocket kind of thing. But I know they probably are both big enough that they have bank loans. Um, so for them, it would be favorable for them to try to slim down over this 2 years where they already know that the production's in the can. But I can't imagine them lasting much longer than that. And even then, you're still going to have you're going to have unemployment as a result of this. You're going to have a community of skilled laborers who are going to be out of work. And then that's where the trickle down starts for other companies and ruining people's situations because now you got all these expatriates from these companies that are looking at jobs places like Schecter or Kiesel or other places like the smaller tier manufacturing, where they're not necessarily going to have a foot in the door because they got their people already, or they might let they might let some of them in which case then maybe some of their people are going out. So ultimately, it just trickles down to small manufacturers in different ways. I mean, that's one creative one, but I mean, obviously, there will be an economic impact there as well. If Guitar Center doesn't have the capital coming in from having all these Gibson Fender sales, you'd think that if they were going to cut them off, like there would be some sort of cap going on there. But it could potentially affect other sales from other manufacturers. For example, the business might grow somewhere else, or some of the mom and pops might see an increase in sales because people just simply can't get Fenders. Um, and they might misinterpret that, like this. And my mom has smaller companies. They might misinterpret that and say, "Oh, well, we got a hit product," and they start hiring people, and then eventually you got those guys are also in financial stress and trouble too, depending on how that plays out. I think I will say this: the guitar industry is largely dominated by smaller businesses. I know people think that everybody's driving Ferraris and all that stuff. And really, I mean, the big guys are the big guys, and the little guys are really little. Um, and I honestly think that they would be wise enough to do kind of what the ammunition industry did when there was the whole ammo shortage in the last couple of years, where they really didn't bolster production because they realized that it was a temporary thing, and they didn't want to invest the capital because if they did, when it was all over with, they were just going to end up having to can a bunch of people and probably selling off equipment, machines, and that kind of thing. So, I mean, I think I think smaller businesses weather that storm a bit better, but they're also, if the guy's not good at business, which we've seen that in the industry as well, um, they might make mistakes like thinking that somehow they're going to be able to take advantage of the situation. Um, Do I think that Fender and Gibson would fold over a drop in production? Probably not. Fender and Gibson are largely they're a lot of their income comes from investors. And I think Fender and Gibson are both publicly traded. I know Gibson is. Um and so for them, they just have to look profitable on paper
Yep.
and they got to keep their investors happy.
Yep. You got to keep the stockholders
So
happy.
even if they cut down to a quarter of their staff, reduce their guitar production numbers to like 1950s levels, um, which I still don't think that's probably not enough for demand. They would be able to weather the storm, and at least at the bare minimum, there's intellectual property there, and you could see another FMIC, you know, thing where they like sold off the company to some private company like Amazon, who continue to produce guitars under their name. Um, do I foresee guitar doomsday? But I do think that we are headed for some kind of rough waters and rude awakenings in terms of how much is produced, what people are actually buying, what how much waste is involved in this. Because that's the other thing. I saw on Reverb the other day a Stratocaster with they must do something with an ebony fretboard. It was a Strat with an ebony fretboard, right? and
Huh.
half of the ebony was light brown and half of the ebony was dark. The reason why I'm pointing this out is because there were people in the comments where this was shared where they were going, "This is the ugliest guitar ever. Like that ebony is horrendous." And I kind of stopped and I said, "Yeah, but you've used it all. That's why they're using this ebony because Bob Taylor had the sense of mind to go buy the only ebony farm in the world and
Right.
actually start using the ebony we were burning because it was not pretty, because we were going to run out." Um,
Yep.
so I kind of look at the situation and I say, we don't even realize how finite what it is that we do actually is. I mean, we got Madagascar rosewood and Brazilian rosewood that are now starting to dry. Actually, I think Madagascar rosewood is dried up.
Right.
Brazilian rosewood is, under CITES for a reason. Um, and it's not going to change. And I know we can sit here and we can say, "Oh, it's furniture manufacturers, furniture manufacturers." Well, we're not competing for pine. um,
Right.
but I do want to point out that we do make an impact. We definitely do. I mean, Bob Taylor felt enough about ebony that he went and bought it. So just
Yeah.
stop and think about that for a minute. Like you buy that guitar you buy and you sit on yourself and just let it collect dust or just cram under your bed and you don't play it, you bought it as a collector's piece. You're not
Yep.
helping anyone. You're not helping yourself because it's a poor investment, first off, unless it's a 59 Les Paul, you're never gonna make your money back. Especially if you're buying a new guitar, right? Um, and at the end of the day, I mean, you've caused them to cut down wood, which is not a renewable resource as far as we're concerned, not in our lifetime. You would talk about
Ah,
old growth versus new growth. I mean, it's silliness. We really need to take a longer look at what we're doing. And now I'm not saying that anybody who buys a Squire is a bad person, but but inexpensive guitars like the Indonesian guitars that we see everywhere now, they make millions of those things. I mean, not millions, but they make a lot of them. In fact, I saw some numbers about what Tech actually puts out of their facility in Indonesia, and I mean, it was jaw dropping. And you just gotta sit there and you go,
yeah.
how much wood was used there, and how many of those guitars are actually worth playing? I was trolling Sweetwater the other day because I'm looking at inexpensive beater guitars, and the amount of beginner instruments that get produced versus the actual number of beginners is pretty crazy. And if you think about it, online distribution is a big part of this because, like, when I was a beginner, a lot of people were trying to steer me towards buying a used guitar, which I should have. Um, and I think a lot of people should consider that as a beginner. But if you're let's say you're a farmer, right, or you're a farmer's kid and you want to get your first guitar, well, you really can't drive a Guitar Center. It's 2 hours away or 3 hours away in the nearest major city. So what do? You order
Yep.
on Amazon, or you order on Sweetwater, or you order on Musician's Friend, or Guitar Center. And that's my point is that this online distribution channel has eliminated the ability to order used easily. For your first guitar, most people are not gonna buy their first guitar in Reverb, you know,
Right.
but they'll buy it from a mom and pop where they can see it and put their hands on it.
Yep.
So that's why I wanted to point out, like, we need to start considering used as a way to decrease our dependency on these natural resources that we are basically like bottoming out on. Um,
Right.
if and realize that not every piece of wood is going to sound good either, and that's another whole conundrum. I've talked about playing with a religious experience I had playing Nick Bonger's 90s Les Paul and realizing that just like the woods in it were perfect and that's why it's acoustically so good. Um
Yep.
and realizing that that means a lot more than you think it does and finding those kinds of guitars are rare, but we have to build quantity to find a couple of those. And so yeah, there's going to be a ton of garbage ones floating around on Reverb and stuff. But we're gonna
Yep.
have to make do with what we have for a while if we wanna start renewing these resources so our children have the ability to have nice guitars.
Well, yeah. I also think that because of what you're saying or what you've said, I think the bubble we're starting to see the bubble bursting. On
From an engineering perspective, yeah, definitely. I mean, Fender is literally grasping at straws at this point.
yeah,
Acoustasonic, new guitars, the Ultra, they're
right,
grasping at straws.
yeah, yeah. They're looking for that next big ticket seller, and instead of saying, you know what, we got this guitar that's practically all markup. It's called the custom or the Vibe
Yeah,
series. Keep going with that.
I
But
think
that's not
Squire
going to keep your American thing open.
I think Squire could use one more guitar at a price point slightly higher, and I think
Yeah.
they need to start producing more of their traditional stuff instead of these crazy like. All right, so when I was a kid, and this is I walked both ways uphill to school. No, I when I was a kid, like I looked at Fenders and I wasn't really a big fan of Fenders. They didn't really fit the music I was into at the time, but I looked at them and I said, these guitars are all single coil guitars, and I was like, I'm okay with that, except for a couple of fat strats and stuff they produced. And I understand that their original humbucker designs were not very good, and that's why people were, or at least a lot of people didn't like them, and that's kind of why they got a bad rap. Um, but I also kind of sort of understood that that's what Fender did, and now I look at the Squire line. How many of those guitars have humbuckers in them? Like more than the single coil guitars. They're producing 3 traditional like Tele SKUs right now, or 4 traditional Tele SKUs right now. And then there's like the thin lines, which are kind of their own deal, right? And those, whether they have a humbucker or not, that's kind of their own thing. But then there's like contemporaries and stuff like that, and they're all like double humbucker things, and you're just gonna sit there going, "This is not what you're known for. What are we doing here?" So I know people say they can't innovate, and I agree, because that's something that other manufacturers have been doing for decades. But let the other manufacturers do it. Do what you're good at. So that's my rant for the moment.
Yeah, I think Fender and Gibson are in a different place in that they have a traditional place in the market where PRS is, the custom 24 and their single
As long
cut.
as they're doing that, they
But
can experiment with other things.
right, but they can experiment.
But they don't.
I
How many SKUs does PRS put out? Maybe
Not very many,
maybe
really.
20.
Maybe.
I mean, Fender puts out 20 different Telecasters with
Right.
just single coils, and then 4 Squires with just single coil. So it's mind boggling. Like the depth of how much stuff they're actually producing is just like kind of wild.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
You're
I
right.
just
They have
think
a
that
traditional place in the market. We kind of there's an expectation that that's going to be there. You know what I mean? That's what they do, and it's really funny because they have this budget line of guitars, but they don't really produce a whole lot in the budget line that actually is what you think of when you think of that company. Do you know what I mean?
here's the funny thing, except for the most budget of the budget. The Affinity series
It's
is
starting to look like a winner for me.
is a Telecaster. That's a Telecaster. It's a pine
No, the Affinity is
block
not
of
pine.
wood.
The Affinity is
Oh,
alder.
which one's pine?
The classic vibe.
Oh, that's right. So you got the alder body and the maple neck, and it is a standard Telecaster. And the strats are standard strats. They may not have the best electronics in them, but we all know you can pull electronics out and replace them, especially in a strat. That's as easy as buying a new um, a new uh, plate with all the stuff built in.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing. On the Affinity, not all the parts are congruent. And
No.
they make out like, well, that's because we produce them overseas. It's a we don't want these to be compatible with everything, so you can't buy this guitar and just upgrade the crap out
Right.
of it. thing. Is
Right.
really
I
what it
know
is.
the screws don't line up and all this stuff.
No, yeah,
I
well,
told people.
you can't even replace the bridge. Forget it. I mean, the screws are not the same at all.
No,
So and that
I'm
was
just saying it's a standard guitar.
sure, and
It's what you think of.
and that it embodies the Telecaster in a very obvious way, right?
Right.
Um, I
And
absolutely
some of the
100%
performers,
agree with you.
yep, and the performer series also embodies the guitar. It there's a performer Telecaster and a performer Strat that's just nice and basic. Um, that also are there. That's your American standard. So there you go.
And then there's
You got those.
75 variations on a theme that we don't need.
Right.
If
And that's what I'm
look,
saying.
these
I get
guitars
the HSS thing.
these guitars are popular because people used to buy them, and then when they didn't like how they came stock, they would spend the extra $50, $100, $200 to mod them. But now you can buy them pre-modded. What sense does that make from the company's perspective of how they're going to capitalize on this? They could
It
produce
doesn't.
guitars more cheaply and make better profits by
Right.
charging the same prices they do right now and eliminating SKUs.
Right.
That's business.
Absolutely.
That's how business works.
And it's a great business model. You could not you, but Fender could literally put out an HSS and an SSS of the Stratocaster and an SS, and if you want to, an HH of the Telecaster, and be done with it. In each line, one from Mexico, one from the States, and one from
Oh well, they got to have a Ventera series too because everybody wants a 70s Strat with a 3-bolt neck.
No, they don't. Does anybody remember? It's just like when it boggles my mind. I've got a 1972 Les Paul I want to sell you. You can keep that thing because that's Norland era, and it's like same
now
thing.
They're getting popular. People like them.
No, they're getting popular because people are going
because people are speculating they're going to be worth money, and then they'll sit there and say, oh well, it's a great player and it sounds good and whatever, and maybe it does. I'm sure because it's just like the 70 Strats. I'm sure some of them are great because I played a couple that were pretty damn good, but I played a lot that were dog crap too. And so you kind of got to wonder like how much of this is just speculation and collectors.
And that's what you've got to say about anything that's CBS Strat.
Well, Fender obviously feels that this vintage reissue thing makes them money. They made the Ventera series again instead of just nixing it and saying I'm not doing it anymore. And I think there is probably some credibility to that, but I also think that at some point it's like if you really want a guitar that's like the 50s, like a 57 Strat, go to the custom shop.
Yeah. That's relatively inexpensive.
Well, and that's another thing. I think if they made the custom shop slightly larger and more like a Kiesel way where they could have like, more than 15 people working there and have more like 30 people working there, they could probably lower the custom shop costs and introduce a product that's like, hey, you want that 50s neck and this 60s body with with these pickups, just kind of like what Kiesel does. It's going to be $2,000, but it's going to give you everything you want. And then you don't have to worry about this modding like parts caster stuff that they're trying to compete with, because that's what I'm seeing. Like they're trying to compete with the modding community. And I mean, I get it. It's a viable business model, I guess, but only so long as you can produce guitars cheaply enough that the modding community still exists. I mean, let's face it. Nobody's going to mod a guitar that's going to cost them a $3,000 initial investment on the guitar, right? Like, they're not going to buy a Les Paul for $3,500 with the intention of taking it home and then gutting it and starting from scratch. But I've seen plenty of people buy like, the lowest model Fender or the lowest model or the higher model, any of the Squires really, and then take them and put new bridges on them and replace the tuners and gut the electronics from day one. Like I've seen people do that stuff where they don't even play it. They literally just rip the strings off of it, and start gutting it. I don't really see that as much with, like a $3,500 guitar. because I think
Yeah, no.
people have a little bit more sense than to take that home and just trash it. Not trash it, but you know what I mean. To take it apart. It's like Joe Bonamassa says. We've talked about him on the show plenty. Um, but he says, don't modify a guitar unless you're not happy with it. Like if don't chase something that it's not. Like don't sit there and think, oh
Right.
man, I really wish it did this, and then go and mod it because then you're just going to end up ruining what it did originally. Then
Yep.
he talks about not wanting to take necks out of pockets and stuff because
Yeah.
even the datum, because he's like, if the guitar plays good, like why would I want to take it apart and risk, losing some of that magic? And I have had guitars where you take the neck out of the pocket, you put it back in, and you go, it's not as good as it was.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And it does get a little uh it's easy to see, honestly, why people would do what you're talking about. They go online. Most people who walk into the guitar store have gone to YouTube, they've gone online, they've watched a few YouTube channels. Those YouTube channels have told them to do exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think that's a bit of a misnomer too, because we talked about and we've done various modifications to the red unicorn and stuff. Um, we 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 operate under the assumption that when we hear, oh, modifying, I can do it more cheaply than if I were to buy it off the shelf, and actually, it tends not to be the case. Modifying a guitar is expensive unless you're buying used parts or junk parts. I'm sorry, but going to Guitar Fetish and getting their stuff and then saying it's going to be any better than what you're going to get from Squire already, it's a toss up. Um, I've seen that where it's like, well, I'll just get my parts from Guitar Fetish. Well, okay, great. I mean, you've got zero resale value in those parts, and who's to say what the quality level is until you get them? It's not like you can go to the store and try them out. But I will say this, like, um, if you were to do it with quality parts like the well-known brands and stuff, you could easily drop 5 or 600 bucks upgrading your Affinity Telecaster, you know,
Yep.
and that's doing the work yourself. Babbitt's Bridge, the Greg Koch Fishman's, because that's kind of what I was looking at doing, and then locking tuners, and even potentially like on down the road putting a B bender in it. I mean, that B bender will
Yep.
cost you 600 bucks.
Yeah.
So, um, which is probably not going to happen in the Squire. I'll probably keep the Squire stock at some point. If I play enough of this stuff, I'll go and we'll go get a higher end Telecaster and put a B
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been talking about Telecasters a lot because my interest in Telecasters. I mean, we should um we should back up for a minute and think about how this stuff applies to other guitars. So I'm not, and that's the other thing is I don't like Squire. I don't look at Squire that much, so I'm not even sure what they're producing on the Strat side. But I know the last time I looked, it was the crazy stuff again, like triple humbucker Strat and like triple humbucker Strat with a Floyd. And you're like, this is not what people buy Strats for. I mean,
No.
um, I just wonder how many of those guitars they're selling. Now I know back in the '90s, really late '90s, Squire was used as like a test bed for emerging markets for guitars. So like, we were talking about 7-string Strats because I was kind of hoping that this new Ultra would be like a more modern take on a Stratocaster, right? Like sculpted heel, probably compound radius, stainless steel frets, locking tuners, a good bridge, like a really solid new design for Fender bridge. Um, but it doesn't look like you've done any of that stuff. Again, jury's still out. We'll see. We'll see when this announced. I guess tomorrow, right? Um,
Um
or Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Um,
Tuesday, yep.
so the reason why I'm kind of curious as to why or why I'm bringing this up. They did the Stage Master series, right? Which were Squire Stage Masters are Floyd Rose, seven. They had a 6 and a 7-string guitar. Some of them were even set neck. And um, I can remember playing a couple of them and being like, wow, they put a lot of work into these guitars. But now I know why. because they were testing the waters to see whether somebody would buy a 7-string Strat or
Yeah.
buy a 7-string, like, or any of that kind of expanded range stuff that was real popular back then. And I guess they decided it didn't work out for them, because to my knowledge, they haven't produced a 7-string since then,
No, I
in
don't
either
think
the
so.
Fender or the Squire line, other than Custom Shop. I've seen Custom Shop 7-strings, but you're gonna
Yep.
pay to get that because it's not something. Um, and I think that's kind of funny. Like they're a company that tries to be all things to everyone except for the expanded range crowd. Now, they would argue, well, we have Charvel and we have Jackson for that. But I don't really want a Charvel or a Jackson. I want a more traditional guitar with a 7th string. You know? Um, so it's kind of weird because I look at that and I'm kind of like, well, you're missing a big portion of the market that does exist.
Yeah,
Kiesel
exactly.
Kiesel sells a lot of the what is it? The new one they came out with, that has the Delos in 7-string configurations.
Yeah.
And I've seen people spec them with just single coils. And you kinda sit there and go, "Somebody wanted it, clearly." I don't know how many people want a single coil in the bridge, humbucker in the neck Telecaster. Um, it's been something that, and actually I have some evidence to back that up too. I've been looking at G&L ASATs and the Blues Boy, which is a neck humbucker bridge single coil.
Yep.
those go those go for way less than the cheaper one new, like the classic or whatever. ASAT classic is like $100 more used, which is really quite funny when you think about it. It's just people don't want that configuration. I'm not saying that there's not a market for it. I'm just saying it's not as popular. Um, and I think that I don't know. I just feel like they don't service all markets like they pretend to. And this whole thing with them, there was a news story last week about them um, endorsing more female Fender artists this year than they had in the company's like 60-year history or 100-year history. Like maybe call me crazy, but maybe that's not a statistic you want to draw attention to. Um, if I were in your marketing department, I would be kind of like, let's make us look kind of bad for the last 50 years.
Yep.
Because it's not like female guitar players weren't around. They weren't around in numbers, sure, and they probably account for a significant portion of sales today. Um, so let's encourage them by saying, "Hey, we didn't support you before, but we do now." No, I don't think it's going to work out too hot. I think the better way to present that would have been we're making inroads and we're going to have a significant addition of women to our roster with no mention of prior. It just seemed
Yep.
kind of funny. It was like let's twist the knife in our own back. Um, how do you feel about that? I mean, like we've done our women in music segments. Obviously, Jim and I we support women in music. But how do you feel about like a company using that as a marketing tool that they're going to endorse more women, so therefore women should be more attracted to buying their product?
Uh, I think that the if you don't have that, it's not going to happen. If you don't have women playing the product, it's just not going to happen.
Well, I think
And I see a lot of women coming in to buy guitars, so
well that's good. I
it's there.
I think I think
The market is there.
it absolutely does have to happen. I'm just questioning whether the endorsement needs to have and hear me out. I'm questioning whether the endorsement needs to happen uh because Fender wants to generate sales, or does the endorsement need to happen because Fender needs to encourage women to not feel like they shouldn't, be seen playing an electric guitar? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I agree.
I think it's a perception issue that like, oh, they're doing this as a token thing because they're trying to generate sales, when in reality, it's a necessity at this point because they feel like they can't come out of the shadows. And because let's face it, a large portion of the guitar playing community who will remain nameless, like to send dick pics
Yeah.
and sexually
Yeah.
harass women. It's
Yep.
like women who are into cars. They're out there. You just don't
Oh
hear about
yeah.
them a lot because they don't want guys to know they're into cars because that's when they get harassed. Um,
Yep.
yeah, so hopefully we can change that. Hopefully, my generation and the remaining people from your generation who haven't died already, because Jim is officially older than dirt. Um,
Yeah. Slightly.
yeah, I'm only teasing you, Jim. No, I hope that everybody can kind of see this as a positive, and nobody looks at it and goes, "Well, yeah, but now I'm not going to be represented like some incel thing or whatever." Where oh, I honestly, I looked at it and I thought about a few guitar players I know who would be like, "Yeah, but they're probably gonna stop producing this because they're gonna do more female signature models this year."
Yep.
It's like, "Okay, whatever." I'm not honestly, the signature model thing at Fender, I don't think anybody needs a signature model Fender because they're all very cookie cutter. Even the signature models, they're not night and day different from one guitar to the other. I've owned a signature model. I think they do have different appointments. I definitely do think that they are different, but I just don't think it's like it's earth shattering to the point where it's like, well, I'm not going to buy anything but a Clapton signature. But I do know
Yep.
people who are like that, and so my hat's off to them. You obviously see something I don't.
That's right. Absolutely.
So now
All
there
right.
are,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
there are definitely variations where I think it, like you're going to change the radius on the guitar or something like that, but the
Right.
vast majority of them are 9.25-inch radius, different pickups, different finish combinations.
Yep.
No point.
None.
So, anyway,
None.
we were gonna try to keep it a short episode tonight.
Yep.
If anything happens with the Ultra, maybe we'll do a short one if we can swing it. Just to talk about what the Ultra is like when it comes out. Um, but yeah, I was trying to think of something to involve the group because I think we need a group involvement thing. S-
Yeah.
All right, weigh in. Should I get which of the Squire Telecasters should I buy? Just and explain why, right? Just post in the group. Let me know your thoughts. Um, and then when I finally decide whether I'm actually going to buy one and whether I do actually buy one, well, you'll have some vindication if you selected the one for me.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, yeah. You're gonna weigh in right after this podcast is what you're gonna do. So all right, man. I've been David, and tonight we've been the Practical Guitarists.